Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about the murder of Mandy Stavik. It's a quicker case. It doesn't have a lot of details involved in it, so I'm just going to be sticking to a neutral makeup look, nothing too crazy. Mostly just my foundation stuff will be the more complex. Otherwise, let's start. I'm going to start off with just prepping my skin with some oil, and then I go in with the Ordinary caffeine solution. I am a mama of two, so anything that's going to keep these Prada bags looking expensive, we use. Dry. Let's start off with talking about Mandy. Mandy was born in 1971 in Acme, Washington. Mandy went missing the day after Thanksgiving in the year 1989. She was described by family and friends as a very intelligent, athletic young girl who loved to live her life to the fullest. She enjoyed horseback riding, basketball, softball, and she also ran track. She had just started her first year at college in Central Washington University. Now that is set, I'm actually going in, I just picked this up today, the Revolution Pro Blur Stick Universal Face Primer. Let's try it, shall we? Let's just put it right on. This is supposed to be a dupe for the Milk Hydro Grip, I think it's called. I don't have it, so I can't tell you if it is. But let's see if it blurs my skin. To me, I don't know if you guys can see it, definitely mattified it a little bit, and it seemed to have blurred it. I don't like the applicator. It's kind of annoying. Like, it's very rounded. She came home from college for Thanksgiving break as every other college student that year. And on November 24th, 1989, at around 2:30 p.m., Mandy asked her mother if she wanted to go for a jog, and unfortunately, her mother declined to go on the jog with her because her sister had come in to visit. Okay, now that we have our face primed, I'm actually gonna go ahead and prime my eyes. I like to do my eyes first before my face. I tend to make a mess on myself, but for a primer, I never use like a regular eye primer before. I always use like my concealers, but I've been like creasing a lot lately. So I saw this today, the e.l.f. Putty Eye Primer in the shade Cream. I also have it in white. They have it in like a rosé color and black as well, I believe. But I figured I would do it a try because I love their Poreless Putty Primer. I'm just gonna take on my finger and prime my lid with it. I don't know how much I'm supposed to be using. I'm just gonna go in with enough that covers up my veiny eyelids here. So after Mandy had asked her mother did decline, and so she went on a jog, but instead she took her dog, the German Shepherd. Several hours had gone by and nobody heard from her. So the family became extremely worried. I'll be using the Morphe palette 350, and just keeping it simple here, I'm gonna go ahead and dip into this color here and set my entire eyelid. Her family became worried when several hours had passed by and they haven't heard from her. However, not too long after they became like frantic because they haven't heard from her, her dog actually showed up at the doorstep without her, alone. And her family immediately called the police. Mandy's mother had informed the police of what she was wearing, which were teal sweatpants, a light colored shirt, and blue striped sneakers. This started a huge search in the community almost immediately. They searched everywhere for 2 days, and searchers actually came across sweatpants that resembled Mandy's in the woods nearby her home. The pants were so tattered and torn apart that Mandy's mother couldn't even recognize them or confirm that they were even Mandy's. However, searchers still searched in this area, and it was the next day, a few miles away from her home, floating in the river in debris, her body was laying there. It's said that the guy that found Mandy in the river actually just finished his FBI training and knew that he has to preserve as much evidence as he could surrounding Mandy and try his hardest not to even touch her. So he actually got in the river with the body bag in order to get her out of there. I'm just going in with some neutral colors here, just some basic browns, just into my crease, keeping it very simple. Then I go back in with either a brush like this, which is pretty big, and I really buff it out. The detectives working on the case said that there was so much evidence that there was foul play. She had scratches all over her, there was semen found inside of her, and there was definite injuries to her head. She was clearly taken advantage of unwillingly, she was raped, and she was definitely knocked unconscious before she was put into the river. Investigators had pieced the story together, and they said that they believe that Mandy was taken most likely at gunpoint. They said that they believe that her snatcher kicked her dog away. He was a German Shepherd. Those dogs are pretty intimidating at times. So definitely kicked the dog away, snatched Mandy in a car or at gunpoint, or pushed her into the woods, and the dog ran away. Now the dog did return to the house, and a nearby neighbor who lived only 1/8 of a mile away from Mandy had said that he just saw Mandy before she disappeared when she ran out in front of his truck while he was pulling out of the driveway, moments before her abductor took her. Now, Mandy was clearly sexually assaulted, and she had scratch marks all over her body, which told investigators that she was definitely defending herself or she was running away. Nearby the river where she was found, it was covered in blackberry bushes, which have thorns all over them, so they really thought that she was running away from her killer. She was caught and knocked out, and the killer placed her into the river, causing her to drown. The police looked into every tip that came into them. They looked into every person that stood out in the community. They got a call and they were like, hey, my neighbor's acting super weird today. They went and they checked him out because somebody in that community that wasn't supposed to be there did this to her. They just thought nobody that lived there that knew her would ever do something like this. I'm gonna go ahead, buff this out quick, and I think they interviewed tons of males. Voluntarily, they interviewed people. They had an obnoxious amount of DNA samples that were given to them unwillingly, and ones that they had asked for. And no DNA matches came back to the one that they found on Mandy. So this caused the case to go cold. And 20 years passed, and the police were nowhere near closer to solving this case than the first day that it happened. But the police never gave up on Mandy. They never stopped looking for her killer. An old interview between police and an old drug dealer caught the new lead investigator's attention when he noticed that this man had claimed he knew who murdered Mandy. Why do I keep playing with my brushes?
Whoa.
He went to investigate this guy in 2010, and when he asked him, like, what did you mean by that in that interview? Like, you were telling people that you knew who killed Mandy. Like, what can you tell me? Who do you know that did this? The guy was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I never said that. I don't know who killed her. And once again, the case went cold. Until in 2013, two moms happened to be talking at a poolside at a water park. And they began to talk about Mandy and who they thought did it. Coincidentally enough, both of these women said the same name. Now, I can't say why these ladies didn't come forth with their suspicion originally. Maybe it was because they didn't want to draw up some trouble or stir up some trouble in the town. It is a smaller town, and they didn't really want to point fingers at somebody that didn't deserve fingers to be pointed at. Both these women said the same name, and that name was Timothy Bass. I'm gonna go ahead and move on to my face. I kind of let that primer, it's not tacky. I don't know how this is gonna work, but let's see. I'm gonna go in with the e.l.f. Camo CC Cream. I'm gonna take a flat top brush and just dot this everywhere on my face. Both women had said that they had terrifying encounters with Timothy. One was only 15 at the time of her encounter, and the other was in 1991 when she had welcomed him into her home to use her phone. The one that was 15 said that he was in a car with her and some friends, and he took like a pen and was rubbing it up and down her leg and telling her how beautiful her eyes were. And she said, like, full on just gave her the creeps. Like, she's a 15-year-old girl and you're 20. That's creepy. And the other lady in 1991 said that Timothy had knocked on her door one evening when she was home with her son, and he had asked to use her phone, and she said, absolutely, sure. I'm gonna go ahead and pat this out because I look like a mad woman. By the way, that is definitely not my shade. It's a little too dark for me. I have light 240W. What are you gonna do? I'm very bad at like finding my right shades, so if you have any tips for me, let me know. I don't like putting it on like my hands. Like, they used to have those shade matchers. I don't know if you guys, I don't even know if they saw that. I think I saw it at Walmart the other day, but they never worked. I was always like a light ivory, and I looked like as pale as a ghost. This lady had given him her phone, and she kept hearing the beep, beep, beep dial tone, like, your call cannot be connected as dialed. You know. I'm gonna go in with my concealer, the NYX Born to Glow, in the shade Vanilla. Now, she has said that Timothy had forced his way through the door and started to walk towards her back bedroom. And he had never been there before, and she was like, what are you doing? Why are you here? What do you want? And he said, I've passed your house dozens of times, and I am in love with you, and you must sleep with me. This totally freaked her out. So she started to threaten him, saying, like, I'm gonna call the police. And eventually he gave up and left. He lived 2 miles away from Mandy's house on the same dirt road. Now, why wasn't this family questioned? There was a father, a brother, and there was Tim. And they were never questioned. When police were asked this question, like you questioned, it's a small community, first off. You questioned dozens of men, and all of them were willingly giving you their DNA. You should have questioned more. You should have questioned them. Conveniently enough, the police didn't question this family because they weren't suspicious. They were well liked in the community, they were well known, and they just didn't think that the father or the two sons could have done this. They were wrong. When Tim was asked if he remembered Mandy when police finally went and asked him, it took him a hot minute to remember who Mandy even was. Oh yeah, she's the girl that they found in the river, right? The police were like, what do you mean she's the girl that they found in the river? How did you forget that? And this just took them by complete shock. It wasn't an everyday thing in this town to have a young girl just go missing and show up dead somewhere. They never forgot about Mandy, and they never let anybody else forget about her either. So they asked him for a DNA sample, which he kindly declined. I'm gonna go ahead and set my face with my Airspun powder. We're gonna set the whole thing. Now, Tim was a local delivery driver for a bakery company. He was now married, he had children, and after refusing a DNA sample, the police tried everything that they could to get one, willingly or not. All right, now that I have that set, I am gonna go ahead and just smoke out my bottom lash line real quick. Just connecting it to the outer V. I don't put any other product on my brush, just using what's left over. So the police did everything that they could to try to get a DNA sample from this man. I'm gonna go in with the e.l.f. Halo Glow Setting Powder. I love e.l.f. I love everything that they've been coming out with. It's amazing. I'm gonna go in with the new Physicians Formula Matte Butter Bronzer. I don't like the smell, but we're gonna go with it. So police, they followed him to work every day. They followed him home, and they were never able to even get a napkin that this man threw out. It was just impossible. He was very meticulous about not throwing out anything. I'll shrink this forehead here. More years went by, and police were never able to take a DNA sample from him. Not even a napkin that he threw away. Like I said, they couldn't find anything on this man. He had no criminal history, nothing. The people closest to Tim said he was a weird guy. Even growing up, he was a loner. He was very disrespectful to women, including his wife, who claimed he was very abusive towards her. And Tim's brother and his wife even confirmed witnessing this treatment to Tim's wife. Always telling her to shut up, she doesn't know what she's talking about, just rude to her all the time. And in order to try to get Tim's cooperation, I'm going in with an e.l.f. blush, Always Spicy. And just go back in and blend it all together. In order to try to get Tim's cooperation, the police asked dozens of men to submit DNA tests that might have knew him, to suggest like, hey, you should go give your DNA to the police just so they clear you. They called this the DNA sweep. And they all complied, all these men, dozens of them, but Tim still refused to comply. I'm going in with a Morphe highlighter illuminator in the color Spark to highlight, tapping my beauty blender in the highlighter and then tapping on the back of my hand. This one is pretty strong. It is so windy out. Okay, so in order to get his DNA, the police had contacted the manager of the bakery and just asked her, like, how do you feel about him? Is he scary? How does he treat you? And she told him, like, you know, he's never actually called me by my name. He always calls me woman. He's not very polite to me. And she assumed that they were only there for one reason, Mandy. So she said, what do you guys need? What do you need from me? Do you need me to get a DNA sample from him? And they said, if you're willing and have the opportunity to get a DNA sample, that would be great. She waited around for months, waiting for this man to throw away something. She would wait by the trash can for hours before he would throw something in there, and she just never was able to, until one day he threw away a Coke can, and she immediately grabbed it, threw it in her desk drawer, and took it to police immediately. The police arrested him on December 12th, 2017, when they confirmed that it was his DNA that they found inside of Mandy at the time of her death. Guys, that's 28 years after Mandy was found in the river by her house. 28 years. I can't even imagine. He was charged with kidnapping, rape, and murder. I'm gonna go ahead and set my face with the Makeup Revolution Conceal and Define Infinite Spray. Love this one. If you guys want something that is super dewy, you guys are into that, Maybelline has a spray, the glass spray. I'm telling you, you guys will look like a sheet of shiny metal with this spray. It is very intense. We're not gonna mess this up. You're not gonna mess this up. I'm gonna take that same highlighter and I'm gonna brighten my inner corner here. And I'm really gonna bring it up, meeting that color in my crease, just to really open up my eye here. Now, his own family took the stand against him. I want more here. Stop while you're ahead. Okay, so I went ahead and I put on lashes and my lip. Today I am wearing the NYX Powder Puff Lippy in the shade Squad Goals. I love these. If you can get your hands on them, I love them. They're so soft and lightweight on your lips. And for the eyelashes, I am using a new one. I had a really hard time getting my eyelashes off the other day. I thought I was going to rip off all my eyelashes. So I got Eylure London Pro Magnetic ones. I'm not the biggest fan, but I just don't know how to use them yet, I think. The eyeliner that it comes with, the tip is very thick, so it's not easy to use. I did use my own eyeliner brush, so that kind of helped. But you need to put on like 3 layers and it dries really fast. With that being said, I was at the point where his own family took the stand with him. His own family took the stand, saying that Tim went to his mother's house when police came asking for his DNA, asking her for help to blame it on his father, who had just passed away in the meantime between the death of Mandy and the time that police were looking at him. His brother had took the stand and said that Tim had asked him to say that he had also slept with Mandy at the time, trying to stir up the fact that she was sleeping around town, and he was just not going to have that. Banking on their defense that Tim and Mandy had some sort of relationship, whether it was sexual or non-sexual, the evidence was very clear that he took advantage of her that day. And he was finally found guilty after almost 30 years of hiding in plain sight in this little town. Tim actually spoke at his sentence hearing, and he said this, and I will quote it: "I'm 100% innocent of this crime, and I don't believe that I've had a fair trial." Moving on. He was sentenced to the max and received 27 years in prison, and he is able to apply for parole after 24 years. They couldn't charge him with premeditated murder because there was just no evidence that they'd be able to support in court for it, so he was not given life in prison. That's all I have for today, guys. Watching documentaries and interviews on this case was very heart-wrenching. Almost every single person that was interviewed, the police officers, the investigators, local people in the town, all were brought to tears in interviews, and it was just heart-wrenching watching it. This community never gave up on this girl, and it showed. Even though it did take over 2 decades for someone to finally be charged with her murder, they never gave up on the family, and they never gave up on Mandy until he was convicted. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to like the video if you stopped by, and subscribe to my channel. And if you hit the notification bell, you will be the first to know when my next video is up. Your comments and suggestions are always welcome. Just please be mindful and respectful as always. And thank you guys for hanging out with me. I'll see you.